Nike laughed at his homemade shoe made with garden hose and duct tape. 15 years later, that same shoe made Roger Federer invest millions and is crushing Nike in stores. Imagine this. You've spent years of your life running, training, competing, representing your country as a professional athlete. You've tested every shoe from the biggest brands in the world. You know exactly how they feel, where they fail, what hurts, and what could be better. Then, one day, you decide to do something different. You grab a piece of foam, cut it, glue it under an old sole, and think to yourself, this could change the way the world runs. But when you take your invention to one of the biggest sports companies on the planet, they look at you, smile politely, and say, it won't work. That's exactly what happened to Olivier Bernhard, a Swiss former athlete and 3-time duathlon world champion. For years, he had been sponsored by Nike, but when he retired and came up with a radical idea for a new type of running shoe, one that would make runners feel as if they were floating, Nike turned him down. They said his concept was weird, unrealistic, and that no one would ever buy something like that. What no one knew back then was that this "it won't work" would spark a revolution. Because that homemade invention, built with duct tape and pieces of garden hose glued to an old sole, would eventually become one of the most promising sports brands of the 21st century, On Running. A company that, in less than a decade, went from a garage experiment to competing head-to-head with Nike, Adidas, and Asics, and even achieved something unthinkable, convincing tennis legend Roger Federer not only to invest, but to join as a designer and creative partner. This isn't just the story of a shoe brand. It's the story of how an idea rejected by a giant turned into a company that redefined the global running market, a story about vision, patience, and flawless execution, about seeing what others don't, and building something that changes the rules of the game. But what Nike didn't know is that rejection was the best thing that ever happened to him. When Olivier Bernhard heard Nike's rejection, he could have taken it as the end of his dream. But instead, he saw it as a sign that he was onto something. After all, if your idea doesn't create resistance, it probably isn't innovative enough. Bernhard had an obsession: to create the perfect running shoe. Not just lighter or prettier, but one that offered an entirely new sensation when hitting the ground. During his professional career, he'd suffered countless injuries, and he knew better than anyone that impact and takeoff were the two crucial moments that defined a runner's experience. So one day, he grabbed some garden hoses, cut them into small cylinders, and glued them to the sole of an old pair of Nike trainers. What he felt next surprised him. That strange, rough-looking setup absorbed shock like nothing else he had ever worn, but more importantly, it returned energy on takeoff. It combined softness with rebound, a mix no other shoe on the market could match. That garage experiment became the starting point of a new technology he would later call cloud tech, a system of hollow pods that compress upon landing and expand at takeoff, literally creating the sensation of running on clouds. Convinced he had discovered something revolutionary, Bernhard brought his prototype to Nike, where he still had friends from his time as a sponsored athlete. But the executives were blunt: if it's not baked in our kitchen, it can't be that good. That line stuck with him for years. Not just because it was dismissive, but because it revealed a painful truth. Big companies often can't see the future unless it fits neatly within their present. So Olivier made a decision that would change his life. Together with 2 Swiss friends, Kasper Kopetti and David Allemann, he founded his own company. No big investors, no global structure, just a clear vision to create the best running experience in the world. In 2010, On Running was born. The first step was protecting their invention. They patented cloud tech and began handcrafting the first pairs themselves. Their slogan was simple but powerful: running on clouds. It wasn't just a catchy phrase. It was a promise, the promise of a feeling. And in a market obsessed with speed, performance, and record times, that feeling was something new. It was an experience. The early years were tough. On didn't have Nike's money or Adidas's distribution power. But they had something far more valuable, a product that truly worked. The breakthrough came when Swiss triathlete Nicola Spirig, Olympic gold medalist in London 2012, started running in On shoes. Her choice wasn't part of a sponsorship deal. She just liked the shoes. And that authenticity resonated deeply with athletes and fans alike. Soon, media outlets were talking about the Swiss brand that promised a new way to run. Amateur runners began sharing their experiences online, and specialty retailers started asking to carry the shoes. Legitimacy came naturally, just like when, decades earlier, Nike had gained recognition after Steve Prefontaine wore its shoes at the 1972 Munich Olympics. What began as a handmade project quickly evolved into an aspirational brand. On wasn't just selling footwear, it was building a community. A community built on wellness, innovation, and minimalist design. Unlike most performance brands focused solely on speed, On understood that modern runners want more than results. They want comfort, balance, and style before, during, and after the race. Within a few years, On expanded beyond competitive running into training, outdoor, hiking, and urban lifestyle lines. Every new product shared the same technological DNA: cloud tech. That consistency gave the brand a strong, unified identity, something few young companies managed to achieve. And then the biggest plot twist in sports history happened. The next big leap came in 2019, when Roger Federer, one of the most admired athletes in history, joined the project. Federer didn't just become an ambassador, he invested and took part in design development. His arrival completely transformed the company's global image. He wasn't just a face for ads. He worked directly on product creation, developing his own line, the Roger, combining Swiss technology with his signature minimalist elegance. That collaboration opened new markets, from tennis to premium lifestyle fashion, and the growth, explosive. In just 5 years, On went from 267 million Swiss francs in 2019 to over 2.3 billion Swiss francs in 2024. Nearly 8 growth. They expanded into more than 80 countries, with the U.S. accounting for 64% of total sales. But what truly stunned analysts was their profitability. A 61% gross margin, higher than Adidas, 50%, and Nike, 43%. Their secret? A business model built to capture value directly from consumers. 41% of revenue came from direct-to-consumer channels, official stores, and e-commerce, while 59% flowed through select retailers. That balance allowed On to maintain control of its brand while staying close to customers, ensuring consistency and loyalty. Meanwhile, Nike was undergoing a major transformation. In 2019, the company shifted aggressively toward direct-to-consumer sales. The logic seemed sound: our brand is strong enough, we don't need retailers. Nike began cutting ties with major distributors like Foot Locker, Dick's Sporting Goods, and JD Sports, focusing instead on its SNKRS app and online store. But the move had side effects. When Nike disappeared from multi-brand shelves, it left empty spaces, and On and Hoka filled them. Lauren Hobart, CEO of Dick's Sporting Goods, summed it up perfectly. On and Hoka are doing an incredible job driving the running business forward. They're reinventing the category. While Nike strengthened its digital dominance, it weakened its physical visibility, and in the world of sportswear, visibility is everything. By 2024, On had captured a meaningful share of the premium running market. Nike still ruled overall, but its presence in traditional retail had shrunk. At Foot Locker, Nike's share dropped from 75% in 2022 to 55% in 2024. The cracks were showing, and On seized the opportunity with surgical precision. By 2025, Nike's revenue fell 10%. The company's new CEO, Elliott Hill, publicly admitted, "Our focus on digital growth came at the expense of our marketplace health. We need to put our best products wherever consumers choose to shop." But by then, On had already won something far more valuable than shelf space: relevance. The brand had captured the imagination of millions who craved authenticity, innovation, and design. Even though On's $2.5 billion in revenue was small compared to Nike's $51 billion, its exponential growth scared analysts. By 2025, Euromonitor ranked On as the 9th largest sports footwear brand worldwide with 2.3% market share. Small, but disruptive enough to change the game. On didn't just fill a commercial gap. It filled an emotional one. It represented what many consumers felt Nike had lost: agility, freshness, and genuine connection to the joy of running. But growth can kill as fast as it can create. When a company expands that quickly, the biggest threat isn't the competition. Its internal chaos. On managed it brilliantly. They strengthened their supply chain with decentralized production in Europe and Asia while keeping Swiss-level quality control. They built a hybrid logistics model, automation for scale, human oversight for sustainability and precision. Innovation never stopped. They launched Speedboard, an internal plate for propulsion and stability, and Helion, a high-energy foam, engineered at the molecular level for lighter, stronger performance. Meanwhile, the company culture stayed lean and collaborative. Teams worked by projects, decisions were fast, and founders remained hands-on. Their omnichannel strategy combined flagship stores in Zurich, New York, and Tokyo with immersive digital experiences built around personalization and community. In every step, On made sure never to lose what made it special: authenticity. But the real question is, can Nike ever recover? Today, On Running doesn't just compete with Nike, it challenges its philosophy. It proves that innovation doesn't require billion-dollar labs, just vision, persistence, and belief. Olivier Bernhard never set out to beat Nike. He simply wanted to build something Nike couldn't see. His obsession with improving the runner's experience created a company that grew not through marketing hype, but through purpose. Nike's rejection became the turning point the industry didn't know it needed. While the giant looked inward, a small Swiss startup showed that true competitive advantage lies not in size, but in the ability to listen, adapt, and execute. That's the real lesson here. Success doesn't come from avoiding rejection, it comes from knowing what to do with it. On Running wasn't born to be the next Nike. It was born to remind the world why Nike once was what it used to be, a daring company willing to break the rules. And now, the cycle repeats. Only this time, the spark of innovation didn't come from Oregon, but from the Swiss Alps. Right, On takes over. If you think On surpasses Nike in 10 years, write Nike forever if you believe Nike fights back. I answer every comment.